Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Quarry Season 1, Episode 8, the finale of Season 1. It's called, and I apologise in advance for the butchering of the pronunciation that is about to happen, but it's called Nuoc Chay, which, Connor, I believe you actually looked up what this translates to.
I did. It was flowing water washes away the stone.
Water. It's always water. This
Yeah, I thought
show's got a thing
very
for it.
interesting because obviously that was the very first thing we saw in the show, which was this just underwater, and it's
Yeah.
been relevant the entire season, really. I mean, even this episode.
Yeah, so full spoilers for the episode, as always. And it even ends with water. And there's water, I mean, there's water through the whole thing, but it definitely starts and ends with water. So, we could talk about, we could get really pretentious and talk about the flow of water and tides and the currents and going with the flow and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think the core thing of the title is it being wearing down Mack's resistance to the broker, essentially.
Yeah, and even where they met in the first episode, when they meet in this episode, it's in an actual quarry,
Yeah.
like which is essentially just well, there's an absence of water. It's like the driest place like you can
Mm.
find almost. So now, obviously, this is the episode where we finally get flashbacks to Vietnam, in particular the mission that caused all the controversy, which we heard a little bit about, and we sort of heard the public perception of at the start of the show, but we never got like full details on. And I want to say before we even talk about these scenes, I actually really, really like that they held them back until the finale.
Yeah, it made them have a lot of impact. It made it feel like it was deserved because otherwise it would feel like maybe, oh, you're showing us the action stuff at the start just to,
Yeah.
hook us in. And
I think I would even add to that though, what I like about them holding it back is it builds a bit of mystique about it. But at the same time, it's built mystique with sort of showing the impact of them and showing what it's done to Mac without, because it would have been really bad if they'd constantly talked about what actually happened. But they never did. Mac never sat down and talked about it, and they never talked about details. Like, we heard there might have been something to do with civilians. We heard, there was like little fragments of info we got from various places, but there was never a clear cut, this is what went down. So, when we finally got to see it, it was like, okay, but we're still learning stuff. We're still learning what went on.
yeah, because if we'd heard more, it would have felt redundant. Because it's like, sure, we can see it, but if we already know everything, what's the point?
Yeah, so... And again, I think many of other shows would have done this all season. I think some shows would have had flashbacks to Vietnam every single episode.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a really easy route to do. I don't think anyone would have complained because it would have made sense.
I mean, it can be done well, but I think here they had one clear Vietnam story they wanted to tell at some point, and they left it for the end, which did result in a much longer episode. In fact, you could probably take out all the Vietnam scenes, and it would probably be a regular length. So they almost added on the extra time for that. Not that I'm complaining; it was a good 80-minute
It was a
episode.
shock when I put it on, though.
It was. It did. I was like, whoa, 81 minutes? God damn. But those scenes were phenomenal. The main scene, because obviously there's some build up where the captain comes in, who's played by the same actor who played Raja Ghul on Arrow, which is funny because I made kind of a stealth dig at Arrow about a minute ago. But he assembles a team with Mac and Arthur and others that we've not met before, and they're going on this mission to this village. And when they get to the village and when everything goes down, everything happens in one shot.
And it's again just another case of the excellent direction we've seen this season.
Yeah, fantastic direction. And do you know what? It's so good, and I was so engrossed in it that I'm not even sure where the one shot started.
Yeah, I couldn't pick out the exact moment.
Like, the moment I noticed we were in kind of a winner, because there's almost this weird thing where when you realise, oh, it's been free flowing for
Yeah.
a little bit, was when the woman civilian gets shot. It was at that part of it. But I think as soon as Mac looks over at the guy is when it actually starts. I think from that first shot, which makes sense, all the way to the final of this scene with the grenade, all of that's one thing.
Yeah, it goes on a long time.
Which is insanely impressive. Look, there's movies that wouldn't even try this.
Oh, most movies wouldn't.
Yeah, and this is a TV show, so this is just insanely impressive. But even not as a TV show, this is still impressive. It's not like, oh, this is impressive for a TV show. No, it's just impressive.
Yeah, this is just great cinematography. There is no forced anything standards lowering it. It's just flat out great.
Yeah, and it shows that like Mack, like, because he hesitates before he shoots because he sees it's just a guy in a boat. You know, it's a fisherman. And earlier on in the episode, they did this really smart thing where he sees a fisherman on a boat, and it's, you know, you see them just acting normally. So that at this scene, when he actually has to start shooting them, you actually feel it a little bit more, and you feel it.
Yeah, I also think it's actually really clever doing it as a one-off because it's like this whole you physically can't look away. Because there's no looking away. There is no cut to look at something else. It's just nope. You have to watch this.
I think it's that, but I think it's also the idea that all of this is all one event in Mack's mind. It's like all one it's one of these things where something traumatic goes down, and before you know it, it's over. It's like all one prolonged thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that sense where it's once he's in it, and then it's not until he gets to the end and he starts crying which, by the way, when he throws that grenade down the hole, and then like the camera looks over and you see like the half of a baby just sort of sitting there, it's like, oh man, like,
yeah, it's really heavy.
That's that baby corpse is the, excuse the terminology, is the punchline to this scene. Much like a joke, there's all this build up and there's all this build up, and that's the thing where, and you know what's going on the entire time. The whole thing's horrific, and you get the sense of dread and the sense of the atrocity of war and everything about it. Like, all of it's there the whole time, but it's that baby corpse at the end that punctuates it, that says, this is
how bad it really is.
It doesn't get worse than this. Like, this is as bad as it can possibly get. And Mack just did this, and it suddenly makes sense why he's so messed up.
Yeah, because that's what is so clever about them holding this back. Because obviously we've seen how messed up he is, and we've seen the effect of clearly what this event has done to him, and how long this has stayed with him already.
And it's funny because I think there's almost a danger to doing that as well, where it gets built up too much in our heads, like how bad this was. But I'll give it to them. This did not fail to, like, you know, capture the worst that I could have possibly imagined.
I think it also helps that while we were always very aware of how messed up he was, because they so rarely actually stopped and spoke about this event, it was never something you were consciously building up in your mind. It was just an awareness that it happened.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Really, really great. And when we come back as well, and we see the captain forcing the other soldier to shoot one of the survivors in the head. This is when like the entire squad is basically realizing that this wasn't like some Viet Cong like base. This was a fishing village, and they're all kind of feeling sick with themselves. All of this, most of this scene was pretty much in one shot as well. Like there was a few one-offs throughout this.
Yeah, it was mostly from over by Mack.
Yeah, and you know, and what was great about that scene is that they play that flashback right before he runs into him in present day.
Yeah,
and it's funny because obviously the broker set up this meeting so that Matt can give him the $4,000, which he's got from his dad and his mother-in-law. We'll go back and talk about that because obviously we're jumping straight into the main like Mac stuff of the episode. And as soon as he walks in, as soon as he sees him and looks over, I'm like, this isn't an accident.
Yeah, there's no way.
The broker has done this. This is something, and it's funny, and it makes sense that the broker would know about his captain because even at the start of the show, the broker was tracking Mac. Like, Mac was of interest because, at least at the time, we believed it was just because he targets, you know, vets that come back from war because they're damaged, they're already comfortable with killing people, you know, like, they're targets for his line of business.
And it's not like this wouldn't have even been public knowledge. It's not like it's something hidden away. It's just, this was his squad and this was his captain.
Yeah,
it would be easy to get that.
Yeah, you could find this information out. And that entire conversation is tense, and it's because we just seen what actually happened, because the captain forced him to start shooting, because he then forced the other soldier to shoot the woman in the head, or the man. I'm not sure, they had a hat on, it was hard to tell. One of those big sun hats.
Yeah.
But because we've seen how he's responsible for all this and how he kind of forced all this to happen, as soon as Mac starts getting angry with him, you're kind of completely on Mac's side for the first time, maybe in the entire show to an extent, because throughout the whole thing, he's been kind of damaged and he's been kind of in these situations with bad people. And it's not that you're rooting against Mac at any point, but I feel like this is the first time where this person he is talking to is the villain.
Yeah, it's one of the first times there's clearly a right and wrong. Because for most of Mac's actions, even when he's like taking out the racist guy, there's still the moral questionability of whether or not this is the right way to go about it. So while you see his actions as justified, they're maybe not the right thing either. Whereas this time, it's different.
Yeah, this time, because it's less about what's right in the eyes of like people and even the law or even public consciousness. It's more just about a personal thing. This man is what caused the event that has turned Mac into this. This is such a major factor in who he is right now that you're on his side because of like this is the cause of all of it. This is so when he goes outside, and then again their fight that they have outside when he attacks him in the phone booth. That is, I mean, the whole thing's not a winner because eventually they run off into the forest and they go up the hill and all that. But the start of it when they're actually punching in each other the car and try to stab each other, which by the way, tense, fantastic, beautifully shot. That was a winner, and then they go into the forest, and that's when, and I was sort of piecing it together as they were getting into this fight, that this was going to end up as the scene at the start of the first episode. And I think at the time we assumed that was Vietnam, and I actually felt kind of stupid watching that actually play out in this episode because I'm like, wait a minute, he's in normal clothes, like why did we think Vietnam? So I actually went back and looked at the first episode again after this finished. Because I wanted to see if I was being really stupid when we watched that. And I don't think we were. I think now, because when I watched it the second time after seeing this episode, okay, I can see that he's wearing normal clothes now that I'm looking for it. But they were like dark and it was wet.
It was, all I remember from those, there's lots of movement on water, like currents and shadowy things like moving around. It's really hard to get specifics of things like clothing.
Funnily enough, the thing I remember the most though, the turtle.
I just remember the colour of the water more than anything, I think. Like it was so vivid and stands out that it just really sticks in my memory.
Yeah, the episode. I think more than anything else, this episode for me really brought everything that the season's been doing full circle. A, because it did give us the context of that opening scene, and it did show us the Vietnam stuff that it has affected the entire show. But even something as simple as in that closing montage of Johnny putting the gift that he got for her, the little toilet thing, on the shelf. Right back at the start of the first episode, like everything just felt like it came together. Yeah,
it really did, and it's the sort of thing where, I mean, we don't know about season 2 yet, right?
Not yet, no.
But if there's not one, like it works as such a cyclical story on its own.
I mean, I really hope there is a season 2. But
don't get me wrong, I'm also hoping that because I want more of this because it's fantastic, clearly.
Yeah.
But at least it functions as its own thing if for some reason it doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to unpack in this one because it is so long, and we've talked about like Mac taking his vengeance out on this guy, and I wonder if that'll be the end of his like panic attacks or his like his PTSD like symptoms. Because even in this episode when Johnny tries to take him to a club to just have a night out, he thinks he sees that mask, the Viet Cong mask. Well, I'll say Viet Cong. I don't know exactly what to call it, but the mask, which of course we see him find that before the event, and I was wondering if maybe the reason why that mask is the thing that he keeps hallucinating, and I was even questioning that maybe that first time we seen it when he goes out with the broker, I was thinking, was it even a hallucination then?
I had the same thought, actually. I think that was intentional.
At the end of the episode, though, I'm convinced it wasn't, because for obvious reasons. But
at the time, it's like, hang on, maybe that whole scene was not what we thought it was at all.
And I'm wondering if I was thinking maybe the reason why that is such a symbol of what he did is because it's the last really like vivid thing he remembers from before the incident, because it was the same day, at least from what I was gathering from those flashbacks.
Yeah. It also completely changes that first time. You know, we see it with the broker. It completely changes the way he reacts, or like the way we see it.
Yeah.
Because now we know it's not just, oh, this looks a bit creepy and odd, and it's something he actually recognizes, which I didn't get at the time.
Yeah. And of course, I suppose we'll talk about the ending. Actually, we'll talk about the big twist, the final flashback. And it's funny because we all season have been saying that, you know, the broker's a character who we expect at any point to turn the other cheek and be completely vicious and be this, you know, mob boss. But he keeps surprising us. He keeps surprising us with being kind of genuine, certainly very fair. You know, he like. You know, he would like take money off the amount he owes based on, oh, that was a risky thing he just did, so we'll knock off another 2,000 or whatever.
Even in this episode where he accepts the 4,000, and it's like, all right, you know, it's up to you now.
Yeah, he's always been a very respectful man, I guess, is how to sum up. Very, very respectful of what others want and whatever. And all season we've been kind of waiting on that moment. And we get this flashback, and Quarry was in Vietnam. And he goes to the site of, you know, the event, this fishing village that Mack and his crew ended up, like, killing lots of people in. And we learn that this was never an order from the army, this was never US military that wanted to do this. And I think if you'll go back to episode 1 and they talk about the press and why it was so controversial, is because it was kind of murky. Like, exactly, you know, who ordered this and, you know, why did it happen.
Yeah.
And we learn it was the broker, and that Mack's captain was doing a job for him. And this is actually where the broker learns about Mack, because his captain mentions that, oh yeah, my guy Conway, he like bagged like 12 or 13 of them himself. And we find out it actually links into what the broker's been doing the last couple of episodes, with taking out the opposing heroin dealers. That this fishing village was part of like a field that was growing. I mean, I don't know my heroin enough to tell you what the actual plants were, but a key ingredient for heroin.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, speaking of the show being beautifully shot, that shot of the broker standing in the field.
Yeah, like even just, you know, when he stabs the plant and it just kind of bleeds out the white, and it just looks fantastic.
It does. Yeah, even that's kind of... I mean, I'm sure this is a real thing that exists, but I think for most people, stabbing a plant and having it bleed white is kind of a weird image.
Yeah.
You know, it's unique.
It does stand out.
So... But no, my entire... Like, see as soon as he steps off the Jeep, you see it's him, I'm like, oh man.
This changes everything.
This like, he is now the arch nemesis. He is the villain that, when Mack finds this out someday...
It's when everything's gonna go down.
This is why I need a season 2. I need more of this show.
That's the thing. There is enough there that's like, oh man, there's so much more that can happen, and you can see vague ideas of where the story can go. Although I'm sure it'll still surprise us because it has done every week.
Yeah, but especially since that now, because we've been saying all season that Mack's eventually going to decide that he wants to keep doing this, that he's going to make the choice to keep being a hitman. So the fact that he's actually made that choice and in a way trusted the broker is going to make it even worse.
Yeah.
When it flips and when he finds out.
Because now it's not just someone did this to him. Now it's a personal betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah, this is... And the funny thing is for now he feels content, probably, because he's dealt with the person who's to blame. But, you know, if he ever finds out... I mean, I think he has to. Like, I think for the show to be satisfying, he has to find out at some point.
I think there's no point in revealing it to us as a story beat if it wouldn't happen at some point. Otherwise, it kind of just feels like throwing us information that he doesn't have for no good reason.
That said, though, it's the sort of thing that I could see them hold... Like, say this show ran 5 seasons, I could see it being the sort of thing that gets held back until the finale.
Yeah, I'm not saying it has to be done anytime soon. I just feel like it has to happen at some point. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense to reveal it to us.
I won't say what it is, of course. We're not spoiling other shows, but there's a thing that comes up in the season finale of Breaking Bad that it's kind of reminding me of.
Yeah, okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I'm like, that works so well because it hadn't been brought up for like seasons, and then it just came out of nowhere like that.
Yeah, you're right.
So I could see them doing a similar thing with this, if it indeed runs that long. If it even gets a season 2, hopefully it does. We should talk about other plot threads in here, or other scenes at least. Sticking with Mac, actually, the scene with him and Joni at his dad's house. Talk about awkward. How awkward were you feeling?
Yeah, I was really uncomfortable watching that. That was probably almost as uncomfortable as some of the Vietnam stuff.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's because real life fights, especially domestic fights, families, spouses, that kind of thing, which this show has done quite well so far with Mac and Joni, but I think because they are so real, and it's something that we not all of us know what it's like to be in a war situation, but all of us know what it's like to be in a room where either you're in a fight or your parents are fighting or something like that. We've all experienced it. It's
just so much more relatable because you instantly just get it, and you've known this feeling.
Yeah. I really like that Joni's the one who says, no, we can't sell the house.
Yeah, I feel like it had to be her, because otherwise, if Mac had said it, it would have just felt like it would have led to an argument.
Yeah, I like it because it's when his dad kind of like brushes off that the pool, it was not professionally done, No, don't mention that Mac was the one that built it. And she and it's almost like because she knew what that pool was to him, because of what he did, and going back to episode 4 when he brought up everything that he was doing because of his experience in Vietnam, because he was doing it for her and feeling worthwhile, and
even the job he's got at the minute.
Exactly, even his pool salesman job, which we'll see if he keeps that for very long.
Gotta have a cover.
But no, all of that, it came out and it felt genuine, and I think that's what's really impressive with the show. When the fights do happen, it does not feel forced. It does not feel like, we want a bit of drama here, so we're going to have them fight. It feels like they've earned every single line of shouting, every single line of dialogue has been earned.
It's because no matter who it's been and from what perspective, you've always been able to understand both sides of every argument. So everything's felt logical, and this makes sense for this fight.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of dreading now, because I assume Mac is going to have to lie to her, because now he's deciding to be a hitman.
Yeah, that can't go well. It just can't, can it?
No, it can't. It really can't. So that's that scene. Obviously, we should mention Ruth and Felix and that whole side of things. Again, talk about tense and talk about stomach churning. I was at the point, right, because obviously we see Felix over for dinner at Ruth's house, and the girl, my God, I was like, shut your mouth, you're gonna get your brother in trouble. But she mentions that he'd been he'd fixed the TV, he'd bought a new basketball, got flowers for his mum, and you can see it in Felix's face. You're like, no.
You can just see a little glance that he gives. It's okay, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's great acting, but see, the thing is the scene after they're in their bed, and him and Ruth start kissing. And Ruth gives this wonderful speech, this really depressing speech about Arthur, and it leads to her kissing him, and they go into the bed. And there's this nice piano theme that comes in, and I was kind of feeling the emotion in this scene. And I don't know if I've necessarily been overly feeling the emotion of Ruth this season, because because she is she's a minor character in the show compared to Mac and Joni. But I was kind of feeling it in this scene. I was I'm actually kind of happy for her that she's finding something.
I think it works because obviously at the start we had that big connection with Arthur, and it makes her moving on from that have impact in the same way that kind of the show has moved on from Arthur.
Yeah.
Even though this was the episode where we saw him again, it kind of mirrored that nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And so it worked for me. It worked for me way more than I was expecting it to. And I think it is just in a case of the writing being so good, the acting being so good, that when this happened, I was not expecting to care about her moving on and finding a possible new romance, but I kind of did. To the point where, as they were lying in bed, before we get to the next scene, I was kind of actually actively thinking to myself, I kind of believe that Felix actually has feelings for her. So I hope that he ignores what he heard. I hope that he doesn't look for the money. I hope he does not go down this path, because it's just going to end up bad.
Yep.
Not only does he look for the money, he points a gun at the kid's head and threatens him and his entire family and makes him piss himself.
Hey, gotta do what you gotta do.
uncomfortable as
The real question is, though, does he give it to the broker?
I don't know.
Because as far as the broker's concerned, he's been paid.
Yeah.
He's been paid back, so this is just extra money now, right? This isn't clearing the debt. So I don't know what happens with the money. Does the broker just take it and be greedy, or does he leave it with Felix?
Or just Felix not tell him and keep it, and
Yeah.
maybe the broker somehow finds out another way.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something that we could explore in a season 2, but no, that scene that was another highlight of this episode, was that scene, and I almost forgot about it by the time we got to the end because it was relatively early in the episode.
Yeah, it's probably about maybe a third through.
Yeah, and then there was so much with Mack and Vietnam and everything for the rest of it that
It was a really dense episode.
it was. Yeah, and we've not even talked about the detective getting his chin blown off at the start of the episode, which, by the way, I'm always a fan of really out of nowhere violence like that in TV and movies, and I particularly enjoyed the chin exploding.
I loved the shot, after the fight's all done, after everyone's finished, and they walked out, and the camera just lingered on his body, on his face, just without the chin. It's like they did some good work there on that.
Yeah, and during the montage at the end, you see his partner look at the songbook, and it's like, will he care enough now that his partner's been killed to look into this, or is he just going to brush it away like he wanted to? Like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like he's got to look into it, surely, because this was straight up, like, clearly a murder. His chin is off. There's no pretending this one was an accident.
His chin was off. Yeah. Because obviously, like, they made it look like a sort of gang warfare because they were setting up all the bodies with guns and all that. But the question would obviously be, why was he there?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, again, something else we can look into in a season 2. But one more scene that I do want to quickly mention is when Joni goes to try and get help for Mac after his freak out at the hospital, and she sees this guy, and she explains what's going on, and he's like, "Oh, I've got something that'll help you," and he hands her this leaflet that looks like it's just beat to shit, like it's been handed to like 50 different people already. Yeah. And that kind of cracked me up, which. And it's funny because I almost thought I was noticing a small detail, but then Johnny mentioned it and started freaking out about it. I was like, okay, alright, it was in my face anyway, fair enough. But
yeah,
no, that was an amusing enough scene to me.
I did like when she went to visit the guys, and they were like, "Oh, I get some bad dreams. So what?"
Yeah, look at all these guys missing limbs.
Yeah, it's like they went. Did he come back with both his arms? Yeah, both his legs. Yeah, well then he's fine.
Yeah,
so that was essentially it, and I feel like that's really highlights how much things have changed. Again, like we've had a lot of things like the racist stuff.
Yeah. I think it was very much highlighting how they treated mental illness in the time, and it's something that even today, arguably, is not understood and is still not where it needs to be. But certainly in the 1970s, it was much worse.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was kind of highlighting that for me was, he's got his limbs, he's fine, go away.
Yeah. And we've just spent 8 episodes looking at how absolutely not fine this man is.
Oh yeah, he is not in a good place, not at all. Interesting for me is when we get to the end of the episode, after Mac has accepted the this new job, from the broker, he's got the bag, and he goes out for a swim, in the river, and we also see the broker getting a delivery of his goods, presumably from that very incident in Vietnam, and it has like the mask painted on the front.
That's like I like the idea that that's like almost his brand.
Yeah, well, I was taking it almost as maybe that's why the mask was in that location, because remember they find all that stuff, the cooking apparatus and whatever, with the mask, and I was thinking, maybe and again he met these Asian people, presumably now I'm assuming Vietnamese people, in episode 5 or whatever it was, and I'm wondering if the reason why it's got this mask on it is because the people he's getting to cook it are these people in Vietnam. This is something that's coming from there, and this is why it's going to have that branding on it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. which is cool. Which is cool. It's a nice thing. But what I really want to point out in this scene, though, and I really like this, is as Mac strips off and jumps into the water, the broker has his back to the water because they're both like near water. Like he's at a boat, he's at the river. As Mac's diving into the water, which is ultimately the final shot, we get this nice big wide shot of Mac swimming in the river. The broker's back's to the water, and I was kind of just I like that as a thematic little touch that Mac's the one who dives right in and tries to swim against the current, but the broker, turns his back and,
It's like it's almost like he's going to ignore a problem. I also like that this time, at the start, the very first scene, you clearly get the sense that Mac is not in the water by choice. It's like this is just the situation he's in.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, he has chosen to go into the water. He has made the choice to work for the broker now, instead of it just being this is forced upon him.
Yeah, and even when the broker asks him, "Do you miss war?" and he's like, "Every damn day," and he says, "You don't have to give it up." Like this idea that he wants to be in the rough water. It's not just about being. It's almost like the pool, for his marriage is too safe and too, because it's a swimming pool. It's just normal. It's It's closed off. It's completely safe. It's
needs the element of danger and stuff.
He needs the current. He needs a current in the water. But yeah, what a fantastic season.
Oh, it really was. What a surprise hit of this year.
Yeah, I really knew nothing about it until the day before it aired.
Yeah, we just kind of stumbled across it. It was like, yeah, we'll check this out.
And even then, it was kind of like, oh, it's called Quarry, it's about a hitman, and that was about it. And then, there you have it. What a fantastic show. So,
yeah.
Let us know what you thought of that episode, and indeed the season as a whole, in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thank you very much for watching. And hopefully, we will see you for a season 2 sometime next year. So, see you guys.